Hello everyone and welcome back to the Common Sense Crypto channel. As with you always, this is Rich doing another video today on XRP. So I hope you're all having a wonderful day today wherever you are in this great world. We're gonna talk about XRP. And this comes from X Finance Bull. Everyone's still saying XRP is a scam, while U.S. Treasuries just got tokenized on the XRP ledger. That's the $27 trillion market. This is how real-world adoption starts. Still fading XRP? That's generational ignorance. And you see who's tokenizing these T-bills. It's Open Eden, Ondo, Z Economy, and Archax. And you know, tokenization is only at $356.16 million right now on the XRP ledger. We have a long way to go when it comes to tokenization. This is like the early days of tokenization compared to where we're going to be a year from now. Tokenization is still relying on regulations. Once those get passed, then everything gets the green light. U.S. Treasury Department seeks public comment on applying Genius Act stablecoin rules. So now they're putting this out to the public. I only have two problems with the Genius Act. Number one, they should get rid of any stablecoin that is a foreign issuer. In other words, Tether. Rip that Band-Aid off already. We already know eventually it's going to fail. Why do you think Tether launched a whole new coin for the United States? And inside the Genius Act, banks should not be allowed to capitalize on custodying people's digital assets, because they're going to get into the custody game. That's for sure. They're going to want to custody people's stable coins, things like that. They should not be able to get all the yield and maybe only pass 1% on to the customer. I would never use the bank anyway, but a lot of people out there won't even get involved with digital assets until the banks are the ones offering it. The commission vote removes the last remaining hurdle to dozens of new spot ETFs. Take a listen to this and then I'll give you my thoughts.
Eric came out here with the semi-shock statement there, talking about the Rex Osprey. This, of course, is the ETF for XRP. Heavy turnover in a short period of time. I think it was like 90 minutes at the time he tweeted this. Is this thing still tracking at this kind of growth right now? Have you looked at the most recent numbers?
I haven't looked in a little while, but it did slow down a little bit after initial opening, but it's having an extremely strong day. Like, it's a very strong launch for a product. So these products, so the screenshot you had up before with this generic listing standards approval,
yep.
It's related to this in a way. So the product you were just showing fits into the 1940 Act wrapper. And what that does is there was a generic listing standards that were created for products that fit into the 1940 Act. I don't want to get too far in the weeds, but essentially that was a generic listing standard. So that's why those future products were able to launch after 75 days after filing a prospectus. That's Rex Osprey basically forced Solana, XRP, Doge into that 40 Act wrapper with like regulatory and legal workarounds, and they were able to launch because the SEC couldn't stop it because it fit the rules.
Exactly.
And so part of this, what's happened with those generic listing standards is basically like now even the pure spot products, the ones that usually have to go through that 19B4 process that I've talked about many, many times, it's like a 260-day long process. You're going back and forth with the SEC. There's delays, there's denials. That's going to be gone now with this generic listing standard. So basically the pure spot products that are going to hold nothing but the spot underlying asset are going to have the same sort of streamlined process. They only need to get the prospectus approved. Usually, you had to go through another division known as Division of Trading and Markets to get your 19B4 approved, which is like requesting a rule change. And you would have had to do that for every asset under the sun that was coming with this sort of wrapper. And I think the SEC was like, one, we should have had a streamlined process from the get-go. We should have done this already. And two, I mean, we don't want to be issuing 20, 30, 40-page reports approving every single product that's trying to list a new crypto asset. Like, that's just not something they're trying.
So now that the SEC changed the rules on launching these spot ETFs, can the spot XRP ETFs possibly go live sooner than we initially thought. In other words, is it no longer going to take until the end of October? Can it happen sooner? And if that was to happen sooner, that could really get this market moving. Not shocked at all, both XRP ETFs and XRP price going down at the same time. This is what they do. So most likely occurs with the grayscale ETFs as well. What they're talking about is the launch of the Rex Osprey ETF launching, and then the price of XRP dipped. And you see 37,751,596 flowed into that ETF. And that was like one of the greatest ETF launches. It shattered records. So this shows you what's going to happen with the rest of these spot XRP ETFs. And remember, they were telling us there was no demand for an XRP spot ETF. In the long term, they are going to outperform the Bitcoin ETFs. Wait and see. But the price of XRP didn't drop because of this ETF launch. It dropped with the rest of the market. You got to remember, XRP is still following Bitcoin. Eventually, it will decouple. Elon Musk, GROK, projects Ripple's XRP ETF could attract $20 billion in debut phase inflows. So think about that, $20 billion. I think they were initially expecting $8 billion. That was coming from JP Morgan. So with all this money flowing into these ETFs, and at the same time, we're getting clarity, how the hell is the price of XRP going to dip sometime early 2026? In other words, when the market top comes in, people are talking about a 60, 70, 80% crash on the price of XRP. I'm just not seeing it. Not with all this inflow of money and the institutions getting the green light. It doesn't make sense for this major crash to happen early next year. This comes from XRP Healthcare, from smartphone to lifeline. In farm emerging markets where access to care is scarce, XRP Healthcare AI delivers a 24/7 holistic healthcare assistant in your pocket. Image uploads, offline reminders, Doctor Connect, and traditional medical insights are helping low-income families close the healthcare gap. Take notice, what is Ripple doing? They're banking the unbanked. Now with XRP Healthcare, they're giving healthcare to people that didn't have access to healthcare before. And it all sits inside of a smartphone. I think XRP Healthcare is going to be big over time. I think it's something that's going to continue to grow year over year. And it's going to bring value to the XRP ledger as well. This comes from Ripple, and I meant to mention this in a previous video. BDACS Korea, one of only 4 licensed crypto custodians in South Korea, is delivering secure institutional access to XRP and RLUSD and other tokenized assets with Ripple custody. This is big because we all know how South Korea absolutely loves XRP. So the goal is advance the institutional digital asset custody market and drive technical innovation and commercial growth in APAC. Solution: leverage Ripple custody. BDACS will offer institutional clients regulated access to digital assets, as well as full lifecycle support for tokenized real-world assets as well. It looks like tokenization is going to start to pick up momentum in Korea, and it's happening with the XRP ledger and Ripple and XRP. This comes from Smoke. UK International Journal of Economics cites XRP as an example of successful integration with legacy systems and blockchain technology. So they're citing this at the same time that the UK's Financial Conduct Authority plans to fully regulate crypto firms by 2026. Ripple is going to be huge in the UK. It's going to be huge in the EU as well. South Korea, other countries, you're going to see Ripple not only blast off because of the United States, it's going to happen globally because Ripple already has rails in all of these countries all around the world. You know, everybody always talks about the next XRP killer. Something's going to replace RippleNet technology. There is no replacing it. Ripple has been out there laying the rails for 13 years. Okay, so if a company launches tomorrow and it's supposedly the Ripple and XRP killer, isn't it going to take them a decade, over a decade, to put all their rails in place? It doesn't make sense. XRP is the chosen one. XRP is the future. Ripple already has the infrastructure globally put in place. This comes from Black Swan Capitalist. While today's crypto market is more mature, with deeper institutional capital, clearer regulations, and real adoption taking shape gradually, it still follows familiar boom-bust rhythms. History is blunt on this. Market cycles may evolve, but human behavior doesn't. The dot-com bubble is a perfect parallel. Massive speculation, oversaturation, compelling narratives, and hype gave way to a brutal wipeout before the real winners emerged. That served as the perfect opportunity for smart money to exit early and buy back in at steep discounts. The crypto market will not be different in that regard. What he's saying is, once we get regulations and there's a bottleneck in crypto, there's a chance that the entire market is going to crash for a period of time. Brad Garlinghouse said regulations can be looked at as a black swan event. And I would agree, because I think people at first are going to be like, I got to sell everything before this thing really goes to zero. It's not going to go fully to zero, but it's going to have a major crash down. And that would give people a chance to buy back in at discounted prices. The one thing that I see different, though, for utility-driven cryptocurrencies, they solve a real-world problem. And what you're holding is going to solve any crash that happens. Say it's the liquidity crisis. Say it's a residential, commercial real estate crisis. Bank collapses. It doesn't matter. You're holding what provides on-demand liquidity. What actually fixes all the problems that the banks have today. So with the rise of a new financial system, you're holding the core of it. You're holding one of the most important pieces of the puzzle. Think about it like that. And people are always in such a hurry to sell their crypto. You know, I could see that in 2021's run. Sure, sell your entire bag, buy back in. I'm so cautious now after looking at the state of the economy, where the world's going, everything's shifting, regulations are coming. It's hard to even want to sell your entire bag. And what are you going to get for it? The US dollar, which is nonstop losing value? You're better off staying in crypto and putting your crypto to work for you. And that crash might not be as big as people think. Because if you have all these catalysts lined up and all this inflow of money, how does XRP crash out? It doesn't make sense for that crash to happen. Maybe the rest of the space crashes. Maybe only utility-driven cryptocurrencies hold their price points and then rise and start to blast off from there. It's hard to say still because we were so early into crypto and we already know the end game where it's the rise of a new financial system. It's hard to time that, and it's hard to see what happens next. What I do know is I don't expect a major pullback in 2026, the way people think that's going to happen. But crypto is absolutely maturing at the same time. And as it matures, XRP's price point should mature with it. But until it happens, stay patient, stay positive, and let's get rich together. With that said, I'm going to wrap up this video. I want to thank you all for watching. I appreciate all of you. I'll see you in the next one. Have a great night.